हरिः ओम्। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णा प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः। प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला। अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः। पाराशर्यवचः गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं। लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणीन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैर्गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुस्तुरासुरगणा। देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Welcome to study of the Bhagavad Gita. We are revising the 6th chapter called Atma Samyama Yoga, the yoga of self-control or the yoga of dhyana. These two words, self-control and dhyana, have slightly different connotations, but ultimately the goal of both of these is to become free. When we are under the influence of something or somebody, it means that we are not free. Even though basically we are all free beings, yet the force of circumstances dictate that we follows certain rules and regulations, restrictions, and so on and so forth. As a result, there is not much of scope for development. Our mind, for example, it places before us several challenges. It wants to go towards the sense objects, wants to take hold of them. The idea is for the mind to get happiness from something or from somebody. But in the end, what happens? The mind becomes a slave to that circumstance or to that person. It's a very deep thought which all of us must try to understand. It's not easy to understand, but we must at least make an effort to understand. We are trying to hold on to something, hoping that it will give us happiness, joy. But in the end, what happens is when we go and try to take hold of it, it takes hold of us. There is a joke about a sadhu going to the Himalayas, and there, in the mountains, you are supposed to wake up very early and start walking early. Otherwise, by midday, the force of the wind is so strong that you will be blown away. Therefore, you need to begin very early. Those who have gone on pilgrimage or on trekking to Mount Everest will know it, that you have to begin, say, 2 o'clock at 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and then reach the summit or the next place of station before midday. Otherwise, you don't have any chance of surviving. So now this sadhu had gone on a pilgrimage to Gomukh, from where the Ganga begins, and there he and some other monks, they were sleeping under a shade. They were sleeping under a shade. There were no walls, but there was a kind of sort of roof. And as they were sleeping over there, and he had a kambal, that is a black blanket, and he was sleeping along with the other sadhus who were all sleeping. And it was a practice that whoever wakes up first will wake others up and say, "Come, let us wash and then we'll make a move." So everybody was ready to go. Everybody had woken up, they had washed themselves, and they were about to go. So they called to this one sadhu who was still lying down. It was dark, they couldn't see properly. They just saw that one person was lying there. Said, "Hey sadhu, come, get up, let us go." So he was trying to wriggle out and wanted to get up, but he could not. Then he shouted up, "Baba," that means friends, "मैं तो कंबल छोड़ रहा हूँ, लेकिन कंबल मुझे नहीं छोड़ रहा है." I am trying to leave the blanket, but the blanket is not leaving me. What had happened is, in the cold night, a bear had come and it had found a cozy place. It had come and it had, put his hand on his arm around the neck of this gentleman, this sadhu who was sleeping, and it had also gone to sleep, and it was snoring, and he didn't know who is it that had caught hold of him. So he thought it was the kammal, because it was also just like a blanket. He said, "I can leave." That's how we all do that. We take hold of something and then we try to think that it is going to give us comfort, but in the end we are subjected to the comfort of the thing that takes hold of us. So that is why Atma Samyama, that means the control of one's own being, is so very essential. We do not give ourselves up to the object objects of the world or to the pleasures and the desires of the world. They are there for us to make use of it, but after we make use of it, we should not become possessive of it. This is a very important thing. So that is why Atma Samyama, control of the mind, is so very essential. And then Dhyana is, after controlling, what do you do? Where do you keep the mind? Then in Dhyana, what you do is, you place that mind which you have withdrawn, you place it on an object or on an idea. That is called as Dhyana Yoga. Atma Samyama is control, and then Dhyana is placement of your mind on a particular ideal or on a particular subject. This is what Sri Krishna is trying to explain to us through this 6th chapter. Now, we have studied up to the 10th verse of the 6th chapter, even 12th chapter, I think. Shuchau deshe pratisthapya. First of all, he said, Yogi yunjita sataha. You have to collect all of your mind together. Atmanam rahasistitaha. Place it on the self, that is the divine that is within yourself. And what do? You stay in a place where it will not be disturbed. Ekaki. Last time I mentioned to you, it is perfectly alright for us to be alone. But being alone does not mean we are not lonely. Loneliness is a dangerous thing. Therefore, we should cultivate the habit of having friendship with ourselves. See, when you have friendship with ourselves, that means our mind. If we can befriend our mind, it will become a great help. Otherwise, if we fight with our mind, it will become our enemy. So here he says, Ekaki. You go into solitude, either within your mind. Sri Ramakrishna's beautiful example. Where do you meditate? Mone, bone, kone. Mone, that means within your mind. You can meditate within your mind itself. You may be in the midst of all the hustle and bustle of the house, but yet you can, when you make friendship with your mind, you can go deeply within yourself and completely cut off everything around you. It is possible. But not everybody will be able to do that. So what do? Bone. Bone means into a forest, to a secluded place. Bone. Go away to a forest where you can be with nature, sit there. Nowadays studies have shown that being with nature, amongst the trees, etc., it calms down the mind. Even if your mind is extremely agitated, the ambience of the trees, they will definitely help you to control your mind. Bone. If you cannot have that, kone, that means have a corner in a house which you keep for yourselves. After that, what did he say? Shuchau deshe pratisthapya. What should be the place where you sit? Shucha, it must be clean and neat. Pratisthapya. Shuchita, that means two things are there. One is external cleanliness and the other is internal cleanliness. That means you wash yourself and then be fresh and then sit to meditate. Shuchaude sthiram asanam atmanaha. Sthira means it should be firm. Whatever seat that you sit upon must be firm. It should not be unnecessarily too cushy, so to say, not too soft. Otherwise you will fall asleep. Natyuchritam, it should not be too high, because there is a danger that you might fall down if you are dozing off. Nati nicham, it should not be too low also, because then insects and other things might come and trouble you. Chailajina kushottaram. In the olden days, the best asana was chaila, that means deer skin or tiger skin. So they used to spread some hay, and on top of it they would spread the skin, and on top of it, so that the hairs do not disturb you, they would put a soft cloth on top of it. So all the moisture or dampness of the ground will not disturb you, will not get back pain and so on and so forth. Tatra ekagram, this is the external. Then what do you do? Ekagram manakritva. Compose all of your mind. The scattering mind should be brought under control. Ekagram manakritva. Yata chitta indriya kriyaha. Yatata. This is a very important word that Bhagavad Gita used to us. Yatata. That means practice. Yatana. That means practice or make effort. Do not fall back in your effort. You keep on that effort. That's what Patanjali also says. Tatu dirghakala nairantarya satkara asevito dridha bhumi. You can be established, dridha bhumi means you can be established on a firm footing, on a firm ground. How? Dirghakala. Do not think that success will happen within a moment. It is not like writing an exam and getting the results soon after. No. This is a practice which we need to undergo. Even for you to write an exam, you need to practice so much. You need to study so much. So much of effort has to be put in. So, Satu Dirgha Kala. Do not be impatient. Dirgha Kala. Let it take time. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a beautiful example, a parable of Narada, sage Narada. Narada was in Vaikuntha with Lord Vishnu and said, I will go down to see how humans are. So Narada came down to the earth and then he saw two yogis, one was a great devotee and other was a great yogi. Both of them, they were meditating under two different trees. So when he was passing by one of them, the first one asked, he saw Narada, oh, great sage, you have come here. Can you do me a favor? He said, yes, tell me. When you go back to the Lord, would you please ask him when I will be liberated? Narada said, okay, I will ask him when you will be liberated. Then he went further and this man was sitting under a tamarind tree and he was meditating. So he also saw Narada and he asked, when you go to the Lord, can you please ask him when I will be liberated? Narada said, all right, I will. So he went back to Vaikuntha and then asked Lord Vishnu and he gave a response. So Narada came back to the earth, then he went to the first man and he was very eager to know what is the response. Narada said, look here, I asked the Lord. He said, you only have to undergo another 10 lives and 10 births to be liberated. So the man was crestfallen and he started blaming the Lord. He said, how unkind the Lord is, how cruel he is. I have been practicing all my spiritual disciplines since my early boyhood. See, now already 40, 50 years have passed and I have been practicing all the spiritual disciplines throughout my waking hours, and the Lord is not at all kind or compassionate. He wants me to wait for another 10 lives to be liberated. The Lord is too unkind. So Narada left him there and then went to the other gentleman who was meditating, and he saw, he was a go-lucky person, and he met Narada and asked, sir, did you ask the Lord when I will be liberated? He said, well, the Lord told me that, if you can count the number of leaves on this tree, The tamarind leaves are tiny. So if you can count all the number of leaves here, you will have to go through as many lives as there are leaves, tamarind leaves on this tree. You will be liberated. And the man was full of joy. He went about dancing and said, I will be liberated. The Lord is so graceful, He is so merciful, so compassionate. And he went on dancing. So, saying this, Sri Ramakrishna says, it is not that your effort that will bring the desired results. It is ultimately the grace of the divine. And it may be tomorrow or it may be the day after. It doesn't matter at all. With what intentions or with what attitude you perform your sadhana, your spiritual discipline is most important. Dirgha kala. So it may take a long time. Do not worry about it. But keep on performing the spiritual discipline. Dirgha kala nairantarya. It should be ongoing. It should be continuous. Satkara. This is another third word that Sri Patanjali uses is satkara. That means you should treat the spiritual disciplines with great sincerity and with great respect. When some guests comes to our house, we say in Hindi, satkar karna hai. That means we will entertain the person with great reverence and respect. So we should have respect towards the divine. We should also have respect to the path that we have undertaken. See, Tad Vratam says, Taittiriya Upanishad says, whatever you do, you follow that as a discipline. With great respect, you follow it. This is very important. Even if you are, say, worshipping something or if you are meditating, be convinced that that will lead you to the highest goal. That conviction must come because you have got so much of Shraddha, you have got so much of faith in the path that you have undertaken. Do not entertain any doubt about the path that you have undertaken. Satkara sevita. So anyway, Yata chitta indriya kriya. Yata means the practice. Chitta indriya kriya. Chitta means the mind, and indriya kriya, the functions of the body. All of this must be properly disciplined. Upavishyasane yunjat yogam atma vishuddhaye. Upavishya, that means having been seated, asane, on the seat, yunjat. You must try to connect with the divine. You must try to connect with the divine. Not just, you have been, suppose you have a guru who has given a mantra to you and you will be performing it just because the guru has asked you to do it. You will perform your mantra japa or the chanting and all that, but your mind is not connected to the divine. Even if for 1 minute, if your mind can connect to the divine, that becomes dhyana. Till then it is only an effort, that's all. It is important for us definitely to follow whatever the Guru has said by chanting and all that. But while doing so, always have that conviction that I am connecting to the divine. Let go of other things. Just connect yourself to the object of your meditation. This is an important part that Sri Krishna tries to tell us through this verse. Yogam Atma Vishuddhaye. For what purpose do you want to meditate? Not to acquire powers. Many people think that by meditating or by practicing certain spiritual disciplines, you will get some yogic powers. That is not at all the intention of spiritual discipline. In fact, it is looked down upon in spiritual life. All these siddhis, all the powers that you get are looked down upon in Vedanta or in spiritual life. You should not be a prey to such temptations. Sri Ramakrishna used to tell a story. Two brothers They were practicing spiritual disciplines, and one of them went away and said, I am going to become a yogi. So he went away and practiced some spiritual disciplines. And after many, many years, he came to the village where his other brother was living. Both the brothers met each other and were very happy to meet each other. And the younger brother asked the older brother who had become a yogi, well, brother, what have you done all of these years? What have you gained by leaving the household and becoming a yogi? He said, well, do you want to see what I have done? Yes, I want to see. So there was a river in the village. So he went and he walked on foot to the other side of the river, and then he came back and he said, do you see what I have acquired? So the younger brother said, well, my dear brother, you spent all these years just to learn to walk on the water? I will pay 10 cents and I can go and I can come back. It doesn't take me much. I can go and come back by paying 10 cents, and you have spent so many valuable years just to get this. So that is the extent of gain that we have through the yogic powers. Yes, some people help others, that's a different thing. But one should not get bogged down by such powers at all. I think I mentioned to you last time, but I will repeat it once again. After Sri Ramakrishna had practiced all the disciplines, he had acquired many yogic powers, but he never used it upon anyone. Towards the end of his life, he told Swami Vivekananda, look, Naren, I have acquired many, many powers, lot of powers through my spiritual disciplines. Would you like to have them? I am ready to give you everything. Narendranath, later Swami Vivekananda, he said, well, sir, would having those powers enable me to see God? Sri Ramakrishna said, no, that will not enable you to see God. But this will come handy to you. Then Narendranath said, no, I do not want any of them. I only want to see God. I only want to experience, have the samadhi, Nirvikalpa samadhi. That's all that I want. I do not want all of this. So that is the extent of yogic powers that Sri Ramakrishna had, but yet Vivekananda did not want any of them. Yogam Atma Vishuddhi. So then what is the goal of meditation is Vishuddhaye, to purify, to make oneself a fit recipient to receive the grace of the divine. That is Atma Vishuddha, purity. That purity must come within ourselves. So, Atma Vishuddhi. Next, Sri Krishna is talking to us about the method of meditation, how we should sit, etc. 13th and 14th verses of the 6th chapter. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayanna chalam sthiraha samprekshya nasikagram svam dishaschanavalokayan prashantatma vigatahir brahmachari vrate sthitaha manassam yamyamachitto yukta asita matparaha. I'll read the running translation and then try to dwell upon each word of the verse. Holding the body, head and neck erect, motionless and firm, gazing at the tip of the nose and not roundabout, fearless, serene, restrained in mind and established in the vow of continence, he should sit in spiritual communion with me, looking upon me as his highest and most precious end. Samam Kaya Shiro Grivam. Kaya Shiro Grivam, body, head and neck. The area below the neck, below the shoulders, up to the pelvis is known as the Kaya. And Shira is the head and Griva is the neck. So you neither lean forward too much or lean backward too much. The backbone must be straight and erect. Kaya refers to steadiness of the body, and Shira is representing the steadiness of the mind and also steadiness of the brain. That means you are not moved about here and there. Then Griva is, it comes from the root gri. Gri means to sound, to express, to emit a sound or to speak. So Griva is to have steadiness of speech. Samam Kaya Shiro Grivam. Sri Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutra that the asana where you sit must be two things. One is Achala Sukham Sthiram Asanam. Wherever you can sit with a straight posture, that is a good place for you to sit. That's a good asana for you. So he uses two words. Achala, samam kaya shiro. Achalam, sthiraha. Achala means unmoving. It actually denotes the part of the head and the neck. Unnecessarily you should not move your head and neck. And sthira is the stability of the other parts of the body. Achala and sthira. Chala means to move about, sthira is to become stationary. Though they are synonyms, but they have two slightly different meanings. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayan achalam sthiraha. Then he says, samprekshya nasikagram swam. Nasika, that means the nose, the tip of the nose. Agram is the tip. So Shankara says, it is as if you are gazing at the tip of the nose. But he clarifies there that the gazing at the tip of the nose is not the object of meditation. It's not the object of meditation. It is to focus your mind on a particular object. That is all. After that, you need to go inside, not just be over there. So, Sampreksha Nasika Gramsham Dishascha Anavalokayan. Do not worry or bother about who comes and who goes, all that. And you will see sometimes in some temples, some people will be seated straight and all that. But whenever somebody comes, we'll look at them, and then we'll sit straight to show off that they are meditating. Actually, their mind is not within themselves. Their mind is everywhere else outside. So dishascha anavalokayan. Do not try to see here or there. Focus on the object of meditation. Then what the other word he uses is prashantatma. It's a very loaded word that Sri Krishna uses over here. Prashanta. Prashanta means peaceful, serene. That is the word that the translator has given here. Serene. What does prashanta mean? See, in our life, two things disturb us greatly. In Vedanta, they are called as the sankalpa and vikalpa. Sankalpa is desiring something, a wants. And Vikalpa is getting attached to the object that you want. I want an object and then I get attached to it. Especially if it is taken away from me, even after I have made use of it, if it is taken away from me, there is a pang of separation. That attachment is there. So this is the root cause of our suffering. The root cause of suffering, Buddha himself very beautifully said that the root cause of suffering is tanha. Tanha means desire. This thirst. That is, if you can cut that at the base itself, nip it in the bud as it were, then the whole life will become a blessing towards to ourselves. So sankalpa and vikalpa. How to get rid of it or how to overcome it? Through viveka and vairagya. These two words are very frequently used in Vedanta. Viveka. What is viveka? Nitya anitya vastu viveka. Discrimination between what is real, nitya is what is truthful or what is eternally going to be there, and anitya, that which is impermanent, that which does not remain for long. Nitya anitya vastu. Between the objects that are going to be there eternally and that will go away very soon. Nitya anitya vastu viveka. So that means weigh the pros and cons. What is essential and what is non-essential. Even economics talks about it. What is essential, keep it, and what is non-essential, get rid of it. Therefore, nitya anitya vastu viveka. This is the only way that we can get rid of desire. After doing that, what happens? Still, there may be some attachment. I might have given up something, but still within my mind, I might be thinking of it. I might be always savoring the happiness that I got from what I had past. So, how to get rid of it? Vairagya. Vairagya is not just giving up home and hearth like us monks. Vairagya is mental. Sri Ramakrishna says to devotees, for you all, you should have mental vairagya. That means renunciation within yourself. That means embracing the truth. When you give up something that is trivial and then embrace something that is of utmost importance, that is called as vairagya. Real vairagya is not giving up each and everything, but it is giving up the trivialities of the world, trivial thoughts or trivial objects, trivial relationships and so on and so forth, and then holding on to that which is going to be permanent and that which is going to give us eternal peace and joy and happiness. Nitya anitya vastu viveka. Once we do this, once we have this vairagya, what happens? The mind becomes serene. Just for example of meditation, or daily meditation, you sit to meditate. Suddenly, you smell some cooking. Somebody is cooking at home. Some smell of that, sweet smell of that comes to you. What happens to you? You start wanting it, desire. Oh, I would like to have that. I would like to savor it. So, Sri Krishna, what he says is, if you want to really meditate, give up that desire of going and savoring over there, savoring the food over there. So, Prashantatma, that means you create an atmosphere where you are serene, and that can only happen if there is this sense of discrimination, and then this sense of vairagya, this sense of giving up. Do not desire it, do not try to want it. Yes, after you finish meditation, you go and enjoy it, but do not try to think of that all the time. Especially our mothers, they have they say this very often. When I sit for meditation, the only thing that comes to my mind is what am I going to cook? What ingredients am I going to use? It is very common for mothers because they are concerned about their family and the children and all that. So, but if one is very serious about meditation, then one should give it up for the time being. All right, this is my space. This is my time, so to say. Within this time, I am going to give up all of those thoughts. And the mind will definitely come to your help. If we befriend our mind and say to it, look, at this particular time, please do not go elsewhere. Stay here. And definitely the mind will cooperate with us. There is no doubt about it. That's what Sri Krishna is trying to teach us through these verses. Prashantatma, be serene. Do not be perturbed by the difficulties or the wants that you have in your life. Vigata bhihi. The second, another example or another point that a commentator gives about Prashantatma is when you are about to meditate, when you have a particular time for meditation, at least an hour before that, do not engage in argumentations. You cannot do that. Just do not engage. If you have a very tough day when you have an argumentative period, do not try to sit and meditate. It is going to harm you than helping you. So do not do that. Rather, sit and relax at some place. That is much better. Prashantatma. Vigata bhihi. Bhi means fear. So vigata, one should not have fear. Vigata, don't entertain any fear. Fear of the unknown is there. All of us, we all have this fear of the unknown. What will happen after this? What will happen to me? What will happen to me? See, what is going to happen will happen. Whether you think about it or not, it will definitely happen. So do not be afraid of it. Rather, face the truths. Swami Vivekananda was once in Varanasi. He was he had gone to the temple of Durga, and there he got some prasad because he was a monk. The priest gave him some prasad to him to take and to eat, and he took hold of prasad and he was walking, and some of the monkeys, they started following him. Some were very large, and the monkeys were following him. Vivekananda was a young monk, how much? He was maybe 21, 22 years old at that time. So as he was walking, these monkeys started following him. And then he started racing, walking faster. As he walked faster, the monkeys also started walking faster. And as you know, there is a herd mentality. So 4 or 5 monkeys, they will invite the others also. So there were many of those. And then he got really afraid and he started running. As he started running, all the monkeys also started running behind him. And as he was going, a very elderly monk, he looked at him and said, stand firm, O monk, and face the brute. These are the words that he said. Face the truths. So the young monk thought, yes, indeed. What am I doing is I am running away from troubles. These are the troubles. Monkeys are representative of all the troubles that we have in our life. So if I do not face it, then they will keep on following me. How long shall I run? They will defeat me after some time. They will come and injure me. So he stood on a firm ground. He had a staff in his hand. He stood on a firm ground, turned back. As he stood, the monkeys also stopped on their tracks, and he turned behind, faced them, looked at them with fierce eyes, and they also maintained a distance from him. They also sat there for a little while, looked at him, and when they saw that this person has got very expressive eyes, they just tucked their tails behind and then went away. So this was a great lesson, Swami Vivekananda says. That was a great lesson that I learned early in my life. Facing the proofs. Do not run away from trials and tribulations. Face them. Of course, for that you need to have the internal strength. There is no doubt about it. You cannot face, for example, like a gunman. You cannot do that. But you have to face the other kinds of difficulties that you have the strength to face. So face them. Vigata bhihi. So when you sit for meditation, do not be afraid of anything at all. That is the idea. Vigata bhihi. Because this fear is like slow fire. It may be underneath somewhere in the bush. Slowly what happens? It will start catching the fire slowly, and it will eat up the bush, as it were. So vigata bhihi. Fear is that which will consume ourselves. That is why he says vigata bhihi. Do not have fear. Do not entertain any fear. How can I overcome fear? By asserting to ourselves our divine nature. Within me there is infinite power. Within me there is infinite purity. Within me there is infinite energy. So let me invoke that. See, meditation in a subtle sense is a method of invoking the hidden powers that are within ourselves. So if we invoke it, then the fear will vanish, will disappear. Vigata bhihi. Then the third one that he says is Brahmachari Vrate Sthitaha. Brahmachari Vrata. There are two meanings for it. One is, the Brahmachari Vrata is that I am having my goal as the union of myself with the divine alone and not anything else. That is Brahmachari. Brahmani charati iti Brahmachari. One who is walking the path of Brahmanhood. One who is going towards the goal of Brahmanhood is called as Brahmachari. But the other meaning that is given is chastity. Chastity. By conserving all our energies, the virya, it turns into ojas. Ojas is a very subtle energy that every human being has. Not only men, but every human being has. That ojas is there. If it is overspent, then there will be disease and other things, they attack us. So that ojas must be conserved, and that ojas turns into medhas. Medhas is the highest intellect that one has. If that energy is conserved, too much of intelligence, if you do not indulge too much in sense pleasures, but conserve that, and that subtle part of it will enter into the brain as the medhas. So that is a very important discipline that Sri Krishna is talking about here. Brahmachari Vrate Sthitaha. Conserve this energy and turn it into ojas, which in turn becomes medhas. Brahmachari pratisthitaha. Then he says, manas samyamya machittaha. Manas samyamya, having controlled, having put together all the energies of the mind. Machittaha. Machittaha means, mat means here in me. Sri Krishna is talking about the divine. Machittaha. Focus on me, whether it is with form or without form, formless. Machittaha. Then he says, mat paraha. Mat paraha. That means knowing that there is nothing greater than the divine. There is nothing greater than the divine, nothing more important than the divine. This is a very important point that Sri Krishna makes. Machittaha, that means put your mind in me, and then matparaha, always have this conviction that the divine or knowing God is the ultimate goal of life. Sri Ramakrishna was never tired of emphasizing this. Ishwar labhi jiboner ekmatro uddesho. Again and again he would reinforce this. Ishwar labh, that means to know God, to reach God, is the only goal of life. Only goal. He emphasizes on that term, only. Nothing else is there other than becoming one with the divine. Nothing other than becoming, seeing God and becoming one with Him. There is no other greater goal than that. The rest are all so-called, short time goals. They are necessary. All the life that we are leading is necessary. But it all must become helpful to the ultimate goal, that is to become the divine. So machitta, matpara, there is nothing more or nothing greater than me. Sri Krishna says nothing greater than the divine over here. Sri Shankaracharya, while interpreting this, he very clearly mentions that here Sri Krishna is not talking about the Devaki Nandana Krishna, that means the son of Devaki, but he is talking about the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Being. So he is talking about that. So, machittaha yukta asita matparaha. Yukta means you must be connected at all times. And then he says asita. Asita means to establish oneself, to sit or to be established oneself. And yuktaha. Yukta, there is another meaning of yukta which a commentator gives, is that yukta means alertness. Alertness is a very important thing in all our life. In Hindi, when we travel in India, you will see on the back of the trucks, it will be written, Saudhani hati, durghatna gati. Saudhani hati, durghatna gati. That means if you are not alert, then there will be accidents. So Saudhani hati to durghatna gati. Therefore we need to always be savadhan. We need to be always alert. That means you should be united with what you are thinking, what you are doing. Sri Ramakrishna used to say in Bengali, Mon mukh ak karo. That means let your words and your mind, your speech and your thoughts be in unison. Let it be one. You are smiling outwardly, but inside you have a dagger for the person. That's not what you should think of. Yukta asita, savdhan, savdhan, savdhan. In Hindu marriages, especially in Maharashtra, they have this, the priest will call out before the Mangalya Sutra is tied. Call out, Savadhan, 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 means become aware, become aware, become aware. So there is this famous story of Sant Ramdas, who was the guru of Shivaji. So he was sitting for his marriage, and then the priest called out, Savadhan, Savadhan, Savadhan. Immediately he said, oh, become aware, become aware, become aware, or be careful. So he got up from the marriage seat and he disappeared. So Savadhan, Savadhan. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna also used to say to his young monastic disciples, future monastic disciples, Savadhan, sadhu, Savadhan. Always be aware. This is a good thing. Even in Buddhism also, we talk about awareness. Nowadays, that's a very hot topic everywhere in mental health also. Awareness, awareness, mindfulness, awareness. So be mindful of yourself. Be mindful of your own mind. So with this we will stop here and then we will take up the next verse. 15th verse, where Sri Krishna talks about the goal of life, the goal of dhyana, of meditation, from the 15th verse. Shantakaram bhujagashayanam padmanabham suresham vishwadharam gaganasadrisham ekavarnam shubhangam lakshmikantam kamalanayanam yogiridhyanagamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavabhayaharam Sarvalokaikanaatham Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna